all women in here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's 9 o'clock. We ready to start?
I don't know that we have enough people.
As long as you have, I think you need 3 people, or do you need 4 people? How many people on the committee?
I think it's 4 of us. We have 2.
Well, Lou's on the committee also, so it's 3.
Hey, Gary,
Okay.
it looks like the committee members are Kai Stanton, Gwen Bramo, Tia Latrell McCormick, Victoria Negretti, Lou Suarez, and then there's an open seat for a possible public member. So we would need the majority of 5.
I'm just jumping on a call, so you can leave there.
So I think you actually might be okay because I see Lou Suarez is on the call, Gwen Bramo, and I believe Tia Latrell McCormick. So that's 3 of your 5 current members.
Okay, well, I can go ahead and start the meeting.
Yes.
Good morning. Welcome to the Nevada State Board of Cosmetology board meeting today, hybrid committee. Today's date, November 5th, 9 a.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Tia Latrell McCormick, present.
Lou Suarez, present.
Okay, Gwen Bramo. Can we have staff, please?
Gary Landry, Executive Director, present.
Leah Easter, Chief Compliance Officer.
Maggie Adams, Compliance Specialist.
The rest of the staff, I think I see other staff members, right?
Rodney Moore, Inspector, present.
Is that all the staff?
Kai Stanton just did come into the room.
This is Kai Stanton. I apologize. I was having challenges this morning.
Okay, any other staff? I think I see two other staff members, but it's okay if they don't introduce themselves?
Yes, that's fine. We'll note that David Scarpelli and Aaron Litterer are both present.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, let's move on to the mission statement. The mission of the Nevada State Board of Cosmetology is to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of those that obtain cosmetology-related services through the delivery of quality testing, licensing, inspection, and education services that focus on consumer protection. Agenda item number C, the committee is for general public. Any comments concerning the hybrid education committee? The board will entertain for 3 minutes, but there will be no voting on that item that's published or not published. No action can be taken unless it's on the agenda, and all comments are limited to 3 minutes or less. Do we have any comments from the general public?
This is Leah Easter, Chief Compliance Officer. Just to clarify a few things. So on your agenda, you'll notice that there's a line item for permanent changes and temporary. I spoke with our DAG about this. If you want to just do permanent changes or just talk temporary, you can. We just put them both on there so that you didn't run afoul of any open meeting law. One other thing to mention is you all have a public member seat that's to be determined. I believe one of the committee members had reached out to Director Landry saying, can we maybe change that seat to something else or get rid of that seat altogether? The answer is you can, but that's going to have to come from the full board to decide to vote on that rather than this subcommittee. Because it was the full board that decided to make that open seat, it's got to be the full board that decides to take away that open seat, if that makes sense. So if you want to do that, we can, but we have to just make a vote to bring that before the full board.
Okay, thank you, Leah. So can I just ask a question just to clarify?
Sure.
So where you have the agenda item number D, D2, which is to discuss temporary changes.
Right.
The temporary changes are the changes that's not the same as what we voted on before that was temporary that was going to the governor, is it?
No, I don't think so. I think when Justin and I were talking, it was a little unclear if the changes you guys were thinking about making at this meeting were going to be forever and ever permanent or temporary in terms of if there was maybe a state of emergency. So we just noticed it as both. So that way, no matter what you decide you want to talk about, it's completely fine and we don't have to cut you off.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for clarification.
No worries. Thank you.
Agenda item number D, selection of hybrid education subcommittee chair and vice chair for discussion and possible action. I would like to nominate myself for chair. So are we going to vote on that today, or are we just doing nominations?
You can vote on it. You need to get a second, and then you can vote on it.
Okay. So there's two.
I'll second you, Gwen.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so we have another position open as vice chair.
Well, I'll make a motion to become vice chair. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but I'll do that.
I can second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So now we're going to discuss agenda item number D, item number 2, the Hybrid Education Subcommittee to discuss temporary changes to NAC 644A, 618, and or NAC 644.678 for possible recommendation to the board to allow theory and practical to be done outside a licensed school of cosmetology for discussion and possible action. Can I, before we start talking as a committee, can Leah did research for us. Leah, can you talk a little bit about some of the research as far as the temporary and the different changes from the surrounding states?
Sure. This is Leah Easter, Chief Compliance Officer. So you all have in your board pack, or if you're looking from the website, it's an attachment. So Maggie and I did some research on the 5 neighboring states, so Arizona, California, Idaho, and Oregon. And we tried to look up what they do currently in terms of distance learning. So there's links in there. You guys can read, kind of what everybody was coming up with. And Maggie, feel free to jump in here because I know you've done some research on NACIS and similar. It seems like they're across the board when we were reaching out, there wasn't a lot of issue going hybrid in terms of doing things when it came to theory learning. It seemed like it was a little bit more of a rub when it came to practical learning. I know when I talked to Oregon, they seemed like they're kind of in the spot that we're in right now, talking about how they're going to do this going forward. But if you look at the chart in front of you or attached, whatever you're looking at, the states that I looked at most closely were Idaho. They made it clear that it was temporary, and they allowed for remote theory learning, but not practical learning. Oregon allowed for a little bit of both, but the practical learning was, my understanding, was very limited. As soon as schools were able to reopen, they had to go back to doing their practical hours in person. I don't know if Maggie, do you have anything to add to that?
That's pretty much what I found. California deferred to NACIS, whatever they allowed, that was the main thing. It was really hard to find information on California. The rest were allowing, in some part, theory, but it was uneven as to who was allowing hands-on.
Okay, thanks, Maggie. So Maggie, your information mainly came from the accrediting body. You just kind of maybe researched to see what the accreditation agency had to say about it?
Correct. And they allowed up to 50%.
Okay. Okay, so as a committee, thank you, Leah and Maggie, for the information. This is helpful as well.
No problem. And if anybody on the committee or otherwise wants to see it in an Excel format, just let me know and I can send it to you. And that way you can click on the links maybe more easily. But you should have it all PDF for now.
I don't think I have any of that.
It's attached as an agenda document at NB Cosmo, but I'll send it to your email too. So it might be
Okay, perfect.
a bit easier. Yep, no worries.
Yep, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, just as a committee today, I think what we should probably do today is just kind of talk about our thoughts and what we are, in how we intend to move forward with the hybrid learning, the different I guess maybe methods or principles of how, you know, like, because what on the scale, see, you don't have it loose in front of you, but it kind of shows like Arizona allowed maybe 20%. They have, some of the states have a certain percentage, and most of them look like they were temporary. But if we're going to move to a permanent, I mean, let's just discuss. I want to hear you guys. I think we all should be able to converse and hear, you know, each other.
Madam President, this is Kai Stanton. My biggest concerns are allowing freshmen to, or any practicals being done in the home. It's very clear that abroad, other states are not doing that as well. I think hybrid is an option. However, we need to make sure that those options reflect the success for our students, especially when you're learning a skill. Sometimes it's not very easy to communicate that verbally. It's more important to have not just the visual, but someone there to guide you through that support system. So in reflection of what other states are doing as well, I would like to take a deeper look into that and somewhat reflect the order in which I'm reviewing. I do like the fact that the educators, the curriculum, or the institute adjust things accordingly. They have a full process that's already in motion, X, Y, and Z. I just want to make sure that those practicals are done inside of the school. That's why hybrid, the word hybrid going to both is very important that we highlight. So I'm not sure of the percentages and how well that works. This was a nice test run regarding COVID. I really haven't heard any feedbacks or anyone coming before the board or any other committees regarding the non-success of it either. So that's something we want to take a look at too.
Okay, thank you.
So I agree. I think that there's limitations here, and I think that COVID has taught us a lot about what's practical, what works, what doesn't work. And so for our experiences, we had classes start during COVID, and so they were technically freshmen, and they were attending at 50% of their program. And I think that, you know, it was COVID, and so that's kind of, we did what we had to do. But when I think about stepping into a hybrid model, I don't know if freshmen should be part of that model. I almost feel like for us right now, what we're doing is we're having our freshmen in-house for their full amount of time. And then once they're done with that, then they're going on to a hybrid schedule. You know, I think that the benefits of this is that you get a better attendance percentage. You have more successful completions. There's a lot of good things, but I think when you try to teach something virtually, for me, it's kind of a little sketchy. I don't know if I'm a fan of a practical scenario online. I'm really, for me, myself, I think it's important that, you know, we look towards the theory part, which makes sense to me. You know, that's what everything is set up for. If a teacher wants to do a demo for her students as she's talking about something, I think that's possible. But for the student to actually do it in her own home, I don't think that I'm a fan of that.
If I may,
Thank you.
Maggie Adams, Compliance Specialist. Lou, I sent that to you via your email, so you have that document now. If you want to check your email, that spreadsheet.
Yes, I see that. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Well, for me, I think I'm kind of following along with you, Luz. I do like I think a certain amount of theory being done from home is, I mean, even in today's time, I guess it all, you know, with this pandemic, we need to have something probably in place that's a little bit more permanent in case of emergencies. And I guess it could be the institution's option if they want to. But I think it's also something that we probably should set some parameters when it comes down to like because I know like on one of the schools here, Lucy, if you look, you guys, all the committee members, that when you look at Oregon very specifically has what programs that they're allowing their schools to utilize. So I don't know if we want to put something in place, if that's just a thought, that there's different online curriculums out there. And even if a school maybe decides to create their own curriculum, it should be something that's probably approved by our state, just to make sure that these students are, because when you look at it at the end of the day, the theory along with the practical is going to give them the written portion of the test. They still need to know the procedures, but they still need to have the information. So if we were to say, okay, we can try this, maybe, I don't know if temporary would work, if we should go the permanent route. But I'm with you. I think that the students should come to school for their practicals. We don't know how long this might last, and even if it goes away next year, I think it would still increase attendance. I think the students could be more flexible. But what I am kind of finding out is they do get a little lax when it comes down to the theory hours. So I don't know how many hours they get a week in theory. I think that's what we have to maybe determine. Now, what percentage could be done online? Do they do 5-6 hours of theory a week? Do they do 10 hours of theory a week? I think that's just a conversation we probably need to discuss as well, some of our topics.
So it kind of varies based on the program. And I have one of my instructors come on so that she could show you exactly what we're doing here. And so basically you've kind of got to reinvent the classroom virtually. We use Zoom just like we're doing now. And we also use our curriculum is Pivot Point. Milady also has an online platform, which is really good. So that's your knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. And then we also use Canvas, and Canvas is a place where you can have your discussions, your uploads, and all of that kind of stuff. So if you would like, I can have our Mimi go through a really quick little tour of what Pivot Point looks like. Pivot Point has a tracking device in it, which I'm sure Milady does too. Mm-hmm. I think is important. And then we use Canvas to do the outline for the day in regards, okay, you're going to do this at this time, this at that time. So it needs to be really framed well, because if it's not framed well, then it becomes boring. And we are, so when they're online, they're in the classroom the whole while, just like if they're in school. So they're online in the virtual classroom of Zoom, and the students will be doing their assignments and the teacher is still there. So it's not a kind of, okay, this is what your assignment is, see you later. It's not like that. So if you would like, I can have her do a really quick tutorial just to kind of give you guys an idea of what we're doing here at Euphoria.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, Mimi, can you do a little quick version of the Pivot Point lab, how we kind of use that a little bit, and then also Canvas. Miss Mimi is our direct education supervisor here at Euphoria Institute, and she's really, really good at this. So take it away.
Okay.
Thank you. So as Ms. Lou said, I'm Miss Mimi from Euphoria. I'll just pop into our Pivot Point lab as well as our Canvas application, just to kind of give you a quick overview.
Yeah, she might need the screen, permission for the screen.
I think it's giving me the option to share here. Let me just switch over.
So is Canvas somewhat like Bongo?
I'm not familiar with Bongo, so I can't answer that piece for you, but I'm going to show you Canvas and maybe you can let me know if they're similar.
Okay,
All right. So are you able to see my screen here?
yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So this is a course syllabus, the way that it would be displayed in our Canvas application. And I selected, as Ms. Lou mentioned, I just chose one of the advanced classes. So this happens to be the career transition module in aesthetics, the last module for aesthetics. The syllabus here, you're literally able to see every single assignment that's assigned by day, as well as time that it's due. I'm just going to do a quick little scroll down. So everything is itemized by day, by time. I'll scroll back up. We utilize our announcements daily to advise the students exactly what they're going to be doing each day. So at a glance, they literally have their lesson plan online. It's itemized by what they're doing, by the time that they'll be doing it, so on and so forth. And this announcement is utilized on the days that they have Zoom for their theory, as well as the days that they're on campus for their practicals. All right, let me swing over here. So on the student end, of course, they love having the online grade book. So again, they're able to view all of their grades for every single assignment. This is my test account, so I've turned in nothing. But as a student, you'd be able to see daily, same thing that's in your syllabus, all of the assignments that have been issued to you, what you received, so on and so forth. Again, I'll just scroll slowly. Everything is itemized. Again, practical work is here for campus days, as well as the days that they're on Zoom and they're just doing theory. No discussion assignments in this one, this new module. So that is a little bit of an overview on that end. I'll also show you the course calendar and what that looks like for students. So at a glance, they're able to view not only through the homepage, the dashboard that I took you through, but they can look at their course calendar to kind of see what's upcoming. So any clinic assignments, they'd simply be able to click there and it would open up that same detail. Practical work, same thing, they would just click and go. For days that they're on Zoom, they know what chapters they're doing. They're doing a review, a Kahoot game is coming up. They have a quiz, an exam, again, itemized by date and time. So that is a little bit of an overview for an advanced career transition module for aesthetics. Ms. Lou, anything else in particular you'd like me to pop into in Canvas before I go to lab?
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to hold you guys hostage here. All right, I'm going to switch on over to our lab. So Pivot Point Lab, again, is our online curriculum. So Ms. Lou mentioned tracking. Within lab, we're able to track the amount of time that students spend on their curriculum. So I'll just show you the session tracker and how they sign into it really quick from the homepage. Really quickly, the students can just start their learning session tracking. This is a stopwatch basically that runs behind the scenes where an instructor is able to pull a report to see how much time students are spending within their lab website, Pivot Point Lab. They would start the learning session. Once they do that, get a little pop-up that says your start time has been recorded, so students know that their time is being recorded. And then on the back end, of course, instructors are able to run a report to see exactly what time is spent and what the students have completed. And same way, they would just come right back to the session tracker to end their learning session at the end of their theory class. So again, that's right conveniently located on the home page. I'm going to swing over now to the Learn tab. This is where all of the action is taking place within the online lab modules. I am going to, let's see, where are we going today? Let's go into Cosmetology 101. The way that the modules are set up, they follow right along with the chapters. that the instructors are going through. So your PowerPoints are found here for instructors. Support materials are found here for instructors. I'll just do a quick little scroll down. Introductory 3-minute video for the students so they know exactly what's going to be covered within this module, the beginning of the chapter. They can download their Smart Notes. If you haven't seen this, I'll just give you a quick overview. This is what Smart Notes look like. So in Classroom, they would normally have, you know, a study guide where they would fill in their notes from PowerPoints during theory. The Smart Notes is the online version of that. They'd be able to download this to their device, be it a tablet, laptop, what have you, fill in info. And then they would be able to turn it in electronically to their instructor. Go back to lab and get out of the Smart Notes here. Oh, scrolling on down, we have Learning Connection, which again is an interactive way for students to reinforce the information that they've learned during theory. This one happens to be a quick little drag and drop, so you can see how simply they would finish this. Well, just so I can show you that quickly, they would move on to the second. You see how quickly they can get in and get out of their assignments. Go back to lab. Talking points, again, another way to reinforce the learning information. This one is just a quick question to respond to. Share 3 things. Click on add your response. Your information would go right in here. Just type in directly, be able to upload photos if needed for the assignment. Let's see here. Show you know is another interactive way for students to reinforce the learning within their theory module. Again, they would just type the info directly into the screen. This one asks for them to find a photo, so they would submit that. All right, and I'll take you back to the home page here within the lab module, and I'll just scroll down. All of the educator support, these things instructors are able to view, but of course they're hidden from the learners. I'll give you an example of what Pivot Point does. It's literally, they've created interactive guides for instructors to actually utilize to ensure that all of the high points are reviewed within that particular module. It's a good way for instructors to actually build their lesson plan to make sure that they are not missing any major information within that particular module. It talks about the learning connections, suggests having guest speakers in class, which of course we're doing via Zoom as well. All right, I'll go back to lab. So at a glance, very easy to maneuver through. Within the educator support, we're actually able to download our slide presentation, which again is the PowerPoint that corresponds to the module. Very easy to maneuver through in this manner. Anything in particular, Ms. Lou, you'd like for me to look at while I'm in that?
No, I think this gives a good overview of the online platform. I think that the online platform makes sure that the message that you're delivering to your students is consistent. It kind of makes the teacher follow this pattern, and it makes it where when she transfers from, you know, one class to another, it's familiar, it's the same thing because everybody in the campus is doing that same format. So you still have the personality of the instructor coming through, you know, you can still have academic freedom, but this is proven to make sure that the message that we're giving is consistent throughout all of the classes. So I really think it's been beneficial for us to, it's made us better teachers is what I think. So thanks, Mimi. Does anybody
Thank
have any
you.
questions for Mimi?
I think I have a question. This is similar. I like this setup too. But I'd like to, you know, of course, I like the Milady Mind Tap as well. So they kind of work similar hand in hand. But my question, Mimi, when the student is actually in class with you, are the students looking at you, or they're working and you're been able to evaluate or check, you know, their assignments? I know you can check their assignments, but do you know when the student is actually in work, or are they in the theory actually with you, communicating, maybe chatting?
Yeah, so what we've been doing, so if we had a theory line theory online via Zoom, while we're doing the PowerPoint, we generally do a little bit of a round robin, ask some questions. We ensure that all of the students have their cameras on so we can see them, we can make contact, you know, verbally as well as through the chat box.
Okay.
Yeah, because
and I'll actually, let me show you one thing while we're in here, kind of correlates. Just quickly on the back end, if I were to pull a report to kind of see, you know, in the 1.1 lesson challenge, this just gives you a quick at a glance where you can see the students who have finished that module. If I could just, while I was going through a theory lesson, let's say we were on a 15-minute break, I could just pop over, run the report really quickly to see who has completed the lesson challenge, who has done, you know, all of those little assignments within the module. It's really quick to run a report as well.
Okay, good. Because those reports will probably be important too. If the inspectors come out to look at hours, you'll be able to see that this is how many hours that they've received in theory, and this is the report to back it up.
Exactly. We can run reports on lesson completion, participation, as well as going back to those time trackers when they're starting those session trackers each day that they're doing their theory.
That's good.
In regards to the trackers, you know, they're only going to get credit time for while they're in class. So, you know, in the beginning we had, but I logged on. Yeah, but you can't log on at midnight and get credit because that's not when we're open. You know, so that took a little bit of them understanding, but at the end of the day, it does work pretty well.
Okay.
Thanks, Mimi.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, I'll go ahead and exit lab.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I have a follow-up question about that, for how they log the hours through Zoom.
Go ahead. Well, it's not through Zoom. They log, I'm sorry, when my phone rings here, I get it. They log the hours
Only through Pivot Point.
Only through Pivot Point.
Clocking in when you do a theory lecture in Zoom.
Yes, Zoom is the virtual classroom. It's where we meet, right? Okay. But it's not where we track time. Where we track time is when they come in, the first thing, everybody's like, just like we are now, everybody's here. Okay, let's start. Everybody, you know, clicks the tracker button. We take roll. We go through the, you know, through the agenda for the day. We do our lesson, you know, but the whole while that this is going on, just like we are now, the teacher and all the students are in the classroom, only they're there virtually, you know. So let's say the teacher gives an assignment and a student has a question, you know, she can just say, you know what, Miss Mimi, I have a question regarding number 2 on the assignment, and she can just ask that question. She can do it verbally. She can send her an instant message on the chat through Zoom. But it's really, it's important that everybody has their cameras on. It's important that everybody's dressed and not, you know, they're at school. And so even, I'll tell you what, a lot of students wear their uniforms when they're in their Zoom class, you know, because they're at school. It's just in a different environment. But so all the rules apply. That applies as if they were in class. The only difference is they might be doing it from the comfort of their home, but it's still, all of those things apply.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Sure.
One other question too, Luz, when they're with the, I think it was the lab.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Because the one section was just where they go in for their assignments. With the lab is where you go in, you can add videos and you can add certain types of presentation. Okay,
You're right. You don't need Canvas. We happen to use Canvas too, because our corporation on the East Coast is an advocate of Canvas. So you could really carry the whole thing within Lab, because you can download stuff onto Lab. It's just that we like to use Canvas in addition to our curriculum that's the Lab platform. It's just
okay.
something else that you don't need to have
Pivot
Canvas.
Okay,
Yeah.
Pivot Point is your actual, where
Yeah.
all the lesson is, all the content, the curriculum
Yeah.
is really in there. Canvas is the portion of, this is what's due this day, and this is how, and then you can go back and check the assignments. You check them in Lab or you check them in Canvas?
Well, it just depends. You can upload them to either place. That would just depend on the teacher, what they want to, how they want to do it. Most of our teachers, we look at Lab as the book, right?
Okay.
And the book is where you would then go for your knowledge. And then if they have an assignment, so let's say the assignment is, I want you to find 3 pictures of a 1960 hairstyle that contained whatever. So it's a little bit easier to upload that stuff into Canvas rather than into Pivot Point,
Okay.
So it just really, we use them both. The students like both of them. Could we do one without the other? I think I could do without Canvas, but I don't think I could do without Pivot Point, because that's really the meat and potatoes. Just like MindTap is for a lady. We actually use MindTap a little bit when they do preparation for the board. If we have a student that's struggling a little bit, because the verbiage is different. The information is the same, but the verbiage is different. So we do use a little bit of MindTap when we're doing review for state board as well. So it's pretty much the same thing. It really is.
Okay. So maybe that's something that we need to take a look at too, as we move forward with this, with the hybrid education, is that like this one particular state has it. You either can use this particular curriculum or that one. I think it should be something, whether you use this book or that book, it should be the same online system.
Yeah, I think there has to be a really clear, clear curriculum that's already laid out, that you can physically see. It's kind of like when like the books, like you want to physically see your books. And this is the same thing, it's just virtual. So I don't think it's something that you can just say, oh, we're going to do online portion, for 20% of the program and wing it. I think that would hurt us. But I think, most good cosmetology schools like yourself, Gwen, have, they use a curriculum that has an option for online. And I think as long as that's there and it's approved by the board, maybe it's, 3 or 4 companies that you can use in your online platform. I think that would work. I think the goal here is that our student is different from the student that was 10 or 15 years ago. Our students are single moms, they have a job, they're it's a lot. And so if we could shave a day off of a full-time schedule, it might serve them well. We have students that, as you well know, they work full-time jobs. They're here 4 nights a week. They do that for 2 years. That's a lot. Another advantage is if somebody's homesick, especially now with COVID, instead of them having to take an LOA or having them withdraw because they go past their 6 days, they can still be engaged online on the theory portion. So they're still continuing, they're still active, and that's how we're actually reducing, or improving retention. Because where other students, especially now, would have had to have withdrawn, and that affects us negatively, as well as the student, because when she comes back, it's going to cost her a little bit more money to get back in, So I think that, being able to stay connected to them is really, really another advantage to having the online platform.
I like the online platform, but another question I was just thinking about, if a student is having, I mean, cause I know it helps with attendance as well, but is it mandatory for a student? Have you had a situation arise where a student couldn't come in for their practical and they just, participated with online learning without, even though they haven't reached their percentile and they just say in the last month, they were only able to do theory online? Has that happened? Have you had a case like that?
Yeah, of course. People like to push the envelope, right? So, you have to, if you're going to just be online, you need to have like a doctor's note. I need to know why, right? Are you sick with COVID? What is the situation? But you can't just create your own schedule, right? By just deciding, well, you know what, I'm just going to do the online portion. It doesn't work that way. You can't progress if you're just doing the online portion, So you have to meet all of the curriculum, and part of that curriculum is coming to school, and I'm sure that you've had some situations where we have students that say, I don't want to work on anybody because it's COVID. And we're like, hold on a minute. The state board has given permission for us to be open. And part of your that you signed on, that you agreed to, is, working on the public. And as long as we have our provisions of PPE and such in place, there shouldn't really be an issue, And so, we actually do have some of that. It's very minimal, maybe 2 or 3 people. And once we have that conversation with them and put them on advisory, it kind of goes away.
Okay.
But you have that, if you didn't have online, you have people that only want to come when they're in class, or only want to come when you're on the clinic, or only, you have, those are things that you are going to have to manage regardless, because you're dealing with individuals that, have their own agenda, I would say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was just kind of thinking ahead, so maybe
Yeah.
we can start looking at putting some things in place if the student is on an online learning program.
Right. And I think hybrid is the key word there. Online doesn't mean just online. It means it's a hybrid. It's a combination of both, and it's like, a lot of the teachers will talk about what the situation is going to be when we get to school. Okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. They might show them a demo. This is how you do your manicure, because with cameras today, iPhones and such, it makes it so simple, to do all of those things. And then they come to school and they're like, okay, right away they get to work, what you got to do. So it's really, I almost feel like it's a little bit, I feel like it's more driven than perhaps the day-to-day life of a cosmetology school, because it's like timed, we got to do this and this and that and that. And here we go. We've got to be finished with all the practical by a certain day.
Well, they want choices.
Yes, exactly.
If I can break in, I believe Tia Latrell McCormick has a question or a comment.
I'm sorry?
I believe Tia Latrell has a comment. I see your hand up. Tia.
Okay.
So, yeah, thank you so much, Maggie. So because you guys are talking about this, this was one of the questions that I had when I was looking at Oregon under student guidance. It talks about, how to deal with those high contact, high risk. I'm not really sure if that's something that's been defined, like high contact, high risk, them being given the ability to refuse it based on, I guess this is in essence feeling unsafe, which is what you're talking about now, which is, it's kind of a loophole with this online education just based on the time that we're in with COVID. So I was hoping to get a better understanding on how you pull those people from online when it is time for in-person, if they're not wanting to come in, and what happens to them. They just get parked? Did they just go on hold? Are there consequences to not reporting for your in-person time?
Okay, can you repeat that, Talia Trail? I'm sorry, the last portion that you were saying, like what happens with the student if the student doesn't want to come back in?
Yeah, it's like student guidance. Oregon has student guidance there. And, it talks about the high contact, high risk, and that they would be given the presumptive right to refuse to participate in person, high contact instruction. without penalties. I guess maybe for me, I don't understand all the ins and outs of, like the pivot point and all of that. That's a great education for me. But I do wonder, like it was mentioned, when they get lax, are there loopholes that they would be using to not come in, such as the COVID excuse? And is there a certain point, like you mentioned, Lou, where it's like we have a talk with them, but is there anything that's been established yet, or anything that you guys have established as far as student guidance?
Well, as far as student guidance go, we have gone with the CDC and prepared. We do a lot at the campus level to make sure everybody is safe, as far as that goes. And if we have a student that's really uncomfortable with COVID and doing the practical part of her education, right? Then she really has two choices. She can take a leave of absence and hope that COVID goes away by the time she's allowed to return. And a leave of absence can be up to 6 months, or sometimes it just might not be the right time for her. I mean, the board has given us permission to be opened. And so I think as long as we're taking all the precautionary measures, I think that just not feeling like it, or it's kind of like if you had a broken arm, right? And you couldn't work on the public, you would have to have a doctor's note and we would have to put you on an LOA until you healed. I think we would probably look at it the same way like that, But when I tell you it's only been a couple, it's really only been a couple of people that have done that. And once you sit down and you have that talk with them, they understand that, it's going to be okay. And as long as you're doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing, wearing a mask, make sure your hands are washed. We have all the students have shields, partitions in between them and their client. We have all of those things, making sure, really, this is probably the safest place that they could be, because we do temperature checks. We have the campus fog every quarter. We have in-house fogging that happens in between classes. So I think that, as far as things go, you make it as safe as you can make it for them to be able to work on clients, because that is students get bored. You can only work on a mannequin for so long. They're begging to work on clients, and so it's not really that big of a deal. And there's only, like I said, been a couple, but I think that COVID and permanent hybrid education are kind of like two separate discussions. I think hybrid became what it is because of COVID, but I think eventually, COVID will go away and, we'll be left with, some good stuff from it, some good things that came from it. I think our industry is ahead of the curve because sanitation is always at the forefront of everything that we do. So for us, it was very simple. We had masks already. We had all that stuff already, So I think that that's a separate conversation. But for the hybrid portion, that's what COVID has brought us. It's shown us that something like this can work in our industry. It does move our industry ahead, so we're not left back in 1960, just like the discussion with aesthetics. I think if you don't continue to, open possibilities up and not reinvent yourself, but expand yourself, then I think that's when, we could lose our industry, with deregulation and so on and so forth. Because if we don't value what we're doing and continue to grow, then I think we put ourselves kind of back.
Thank you for answering that. Yeah, I think I just wondered how legitimate of a claim that would be forging forward if, someone was like, I just don't feel safe. And it really maybe wasn't that, but it sounds like it's a very low percentage of people that.
Very low. Mm-hmm.
And
Well, it also states that too with in Oregon, it's only temporary and it's probably for during COVID. It's a temporary hybrid situation. They haven't made it permanent. So there's not that many states that have it permanent. So I guess we would probably be another model state. We just have to get it all figured out, because there has to be some, I feel like it has to be some mandated type of curriculums that is put in place in order for it to be successful across the board. I mean, you know, just teaching through Zoom. I know that another program that we have during COVID, I mean, when we first had the shutdown, we were able to, some of the schools were able to teach through Zoom, and they didn't get good results. So when I went before their board, I wanted a different result to be able to continue to use our online curriculum when the schools didn't, they opted out because they were doing most of their online training through Zoom, which you really need a solid online curriculum.
Platform, yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, when students don't, I mean, I agree with you, Luce. If a student just wants to do online, you know, and we had some students like that too, that we had to put on leave of absence, and then we had some that finally didn't want to come back. But I mean, maybe come back later. That's their choice, or you know, they have an option. But when it comes down to you have to come back into the school for the practical, that is what it is.
Yeah.
And that would have to, and she answered my question as well. Luke answered my question with the time frame on that, because I was reading through it and I was like, well, that could just be a reason for as long as this existed. But she said,
right,
you have until you time out to get comfortable with this. And so I think that that answered my question. Thank you.
And I think what we have to figure out is, you know, kind of like when we, you know, 10% of your program is theory, kind of like we, you know, before it was itemized, Gwen, do you remember? And we had a meeting and we kind of went through everything and we put a percentage on it as opposed to a number. And so I feel like that's a really good model for us to decide what percentage of what program can be taught online, because consequently nail tech is going to have a lot less content, right? But aesthetics has a lot more content. It's the hardest test. So, you know, it would make sense, and I'm just using numbers. I don't mean this to be, you know, written down and take it to the bank, but maybe, you know, maybe it's 20% for nail techs, and maybe it's 40% for aesthetics, you know, and maybe cosmetology is somewhere in the middle. Or it would depend on how many chapters each book had as to how much time, you know, you spent online. But, you know, we have to have 10% of theory, but we know that we go way past 10% of theory, you know, when we're teaching. So I think we have to establish minimums of what can be taught online and then take it from there. I mean, I think that would be a good starting point.
And then we also wanted to make sure that freshman students, we have something in place for students that, for the new freshman students that cannot participate theory online. I mean, we just have to have some parameters.
Well, I think they can participate in online theory, but I think a freshman needs to come in. I think if they can stay in the full time, it's better, because, you know, they're learning so much so fast. Sometimes you're teaching a haircut in the morning, and then, you know, by the time they would get to the campus, it might be more difficult for them to recall what they just learned. So just for us, we found that it's better for our Cosmos and our nail techs to be on campus for their freshman modules. Aesthetics, we can go back and forth with. Aesthetics can do a lot of theory online and then come in and do their practical either in the morning or the afternoon, depending on what their schedule is. So I think it just depends on you know, where they're at in their program and what program it is.
And how many hours. So that percentage would equate to hours that they get a week. Okay, well, the part that I'm concerned about too, and I say this all the time to our instructors as well, because I know that they get additional assignments, and I know that they have sometimes projects that they have to do. So I think we have to kind of figure out how many hours. Well, I mean, we might work better percentage that a student receives in a week. Yeah, you know, and calculate it over to a month. in theory, you know, when the other students that's in school get their 5 hours or 6 hours a week. It seems like you can get more doing hybrid at home.
I think you can. I just think it depends on, I think there's a lot of options. Do you want to make it where it's a half a day of theory every day? Or where it's, I mean, there's a lot of options. And again, it goes back to the program and how you want to lay it out. You know, aesthetics, when they're in their second module and they're doing, what is it? Anatomy, it's a lot, you know, they need more time in the classroom. So if you need more time in the classroom, that just becomes that virtual classroom of Zoom. That's kind of how we look at it. But
Yeah.
so yeah, it does need to, that's why I think the percentage works out really great, because then you can kind of tailor it to what you are wanting to experience, because then it doesn't really matter where you get that percentage, right? It just is important that you get that percentage, and that the school can provide to the board an outline or framework that shows this is what they're getting, this is how we're tracking it, and so on and so forth.
I think that's important.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't think it's a babysitting service, and I think that that's probably, I feel a little bit sometimes like, you know, I don't want like, you know, like nobody's doing anything. We're just, you know, you've gotta be really, really on it, and make sure that there are assignments, and make sure that your teachers, we visit our Zoom classes regularly, you know, because we can go onto Canvas and we click on the link and hi everybody. And so when I go in the room, I want to make sure that I see what I see, just like I get up from my office and I go down the road and down the hallway to see what they're doing in class. So it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing.
Right. It's just virtual classroom.
Exactly.
It happens at the same time. Are you modifying time? It doesn't matter what time. If for school, I mean, I'm just talking about long term.
Well,
do we have like theory hours? It could be done morning, afternoon, depending on your students. I think they're a little bit more flexible with the virtual classroom than it is, you know, so early in the morning, because they're virtual for a reason, most of them.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I think it's just, you know, that would be left up to the schools, how they want to deliver that and when. You know, we have, like for our examples, our aesthetics class, you know, because of limited occupancy, because we can only be at 50%, you know, one group comes in the morning to practical, then they go home and they Zoom in the afternoon, and then vice versa. You know, some Zoom in the morning and then they come to the afternoon and have their practical. So, you know, it's kind of worked out in that sense where, you know, they're still getting everything that they need. And it just varies based on, you know, well, now COVID is deciding that occupancy, but long term, it could be, you know, like I said, COVID's taught us a lot.
Yeah.
This is Leah Easter. I just had a quick question.
Okay, Leah.
Who are saying that they don't have the necessary items they need, like a computer or phone or what have you, to do this remotely? And if so, how do you handle that? Or do they have the option to come in person, or is it a leave of absence thing?
Well, for us, all of our students get a tablet, you know.
Okay, so it's provided then.
Yeah, because you're right, that not everybody has that option, you know. So all of our students get a tablet, and you know, if they don't have internet at home, they can come to the school and Zoom from school. We haven't had that. There's also some free options for internet, you know, especially now again during COVID. They really, you know, there's a lot of different things that they can do to get online. But yeah, absolutely, they have to have a device that is good enough for them to participate. And so they don't have to use the tablet. Some like to use their phone, some like to use their laptop, but they all get a tablet in their kit as part of their kit.
Thank you.
Yeah, they have to be able to, in order to do the virtual learning. I mean, I think it's a little bit easier with the tablet instead of the phone.
Oh, when COVID hit, we gave all of our students, we subsidized them with a tablet because, they have to have it and not everybody has the means to go out and buy a $400 or $500 tablet or laptop. And, they do have their phone, but their phone is not really a good way to learn.
Right.
You need to have options.
Yeah.
And then for purposes of meeting notes and just trying to think for upcoming meetings, what it sounds like so far is everybody's ready to kind of put the wheels in motion for some sort of permanent hybrid theory education moving forward. Do you guys have any appetite for a practical remote learning moving forward, or is that not on anyone's radar right now?
For me, I would say no.
Okay.
Gwen, how do you feel about that?
I think they should be in school for practical.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't want to, you can learn eyelash extensions online. You can learn laser tech online. You can learn all that online and never touch a person. And it goes back to protecting the industry, right? So what you can do is bookwork. Bookwork online makes sense, but teaching somebody how to, manipulate hair or do a facial or do a pedicure, you need to be in person for that. So I am not a fan of practical online. The only thing that I would say is that a teacher could possibly do a demonstration as if she was, again, in that virtual classroom. So I think the teacher could do this demonstration and the students can watch, but when it comes down to it, I think the student needs to be in-house to do practical.
And then that virtual demonstration could be still considered as theory.
Yes, oh, absolutely, that would be part of it. Because that was what would happen in the classroom, right? And right now in our classrooms, because of social distancing, teachers are using their camera. We bought, the arms that grab the camera, they attach it to their desk or whatever they're using. The students have their tablets. They're watching while the teacher is doing the demo in the room while they social distance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So Leah, if you and Maggie could help us with like some other research too.
Sure.
I know on the last research we talked about, it was just basically about what states that was offering it. We want to really look at how the board feels too, as far as staff too, helping us assist us with curriculum, making sure that what percentage for what course.
Okay.
Because there's going to be a certain percentage, manicuring and aesthetics are shorter programs. They're not going to be, it's going to be different from cosmetology and hair design. And
we can
what curriculums that the board will approve? Because I think we should have some board approved curriculums.
Yes.
Okay. We can also
most of the curriculums, I think it's online platforms. I think
online platform. Yeah. Okay, I say online curriculum, but online platform.
Yeah.
Okay, that works out. And then we'll also try to get you some info on, I believe it's Arizona and Utah for sure have percentages in place. So we can maybe see what they did just to kind of look and get an idea if we want to kind of mimic that or we hate it and don't want to mimic it. I know Utah for sure probably has their laws real laid out for that. So I'll see what I can find.
Perfect.
Okay. I can't think of anything else right now because mine was mainly hours, and that's a percentile, and the online platform.
I agree. I think that's a good starting spot,
Mm-hmm.
Did you also want to revisit at an upcoming meeting? I know there's a law somewhere, and I don't know off the top of my head which one it is, but it was the one that required that an hour of theory learning be done every day prior to engaging in practical work. Do you want to visit that in case that messes with any sort of hybrid plan? Because that would mean that anytime someone came in for practical, you would have to kick off their day with theory, which they may have already done.
So we might need to put something in there in reference to hybrid learning.
Yeah, let me pull that law maybe for next meeting and we can just talk about it at least so you guys can see it.
So we can have one for class and then one for virtual.
Yeah,
This is Kai Stanton, President. I I'm glad Leah brought that up. I did want to bring that up as well. I think they're either that or add some level of an adoption or a regulation attached to it. Yes, she's right. That's very important. That will conflict with whatever percentage that is maybe required. She's right. We are going to have to take.
Okay. Sounds good.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. I think we need choices. I think there should be some with today's student. Today's student is a little bit different from the student when I was in cosmetology school.
Yes, very different.
I needed my book.
Yeah. I mean, and who's to say, we might still offer both. It might not be all, if a student says, I really hate it, the teacher has to deliver the information. So, maybe she's sitting in the room with the teacher while the rest of the people are on Zoom. I mean, the possibilities are just endless. They really are.
And this is Kai Stanton. I have talked to a couple of people regarding not one has had a negative.
No, go right ahead, Kai.
Can you hear? Oh, sorry. Not one have had a negative response. I think the Canvas, I've actually experienced Canvas. It's an excellent program. Pivot Point. These are all really well-rounded information. All the questions that I had were answered. I think that's the most quiet I've ever been. So I think Mimi was really good at presenting the information, and I'm happy that everyone researched according to what the concerns were. So that things can move along smoothly. My only other concern would be as far as students concerned about COVID. My only suggestion would say, okay, well, build a certain level of clientele. You need X, Y, and Z haircuts if you want to bring a family member, what have you, but that's not something we're talking about right now. I think everything else is in place accordingly. The hours we do need to take a look at, but you guys executed that very well. I appreciate you. Thank you.
I think at the end of the day, you're welcome. I think at the end of the day, this gives the student the opportunity to learn virtually at a certain percentile. So if that student, because of COVID or whatever the other issues may be, if that student's not able to attend some in-person, in-classroom practicals, then maybe it's not the time for the student to continue, or maybe the student needs to leave an absence, or maybe that they could, because you're going to interact with your client in real life anyway once you get your license. So what that have to do with school, because when they say that, I don't want to work on clients, but when you leave here, you're going to work on one.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just that like the conversation you have to have with the student.
Right. And I'm happy that you both are actually active in that environment, so you can bring us a percentage as well as how frequent that concern really is. So absolutely. Like I said, it was excellent. I have nothing to say. You've executed every question I had. Luz researched a lot, and the presentation was amazing. I appreciate Miss Mimi for doing that step by step, as well as going over time percentages, accountability, communication. So it's excellent. I have nothing to say. It's perfect.
Thank you.
I have one question just as a point of clarity too. So if this moves forward, is your vision that, let's say you determine that nails can be done 20% theory online, would that mean then going forward, the students must be doing that 20% online, or they would have the ability to do 20% in your school or online?
Well, I think for us, I think the online was really well accepted. So, I mean, I guess if somebody didn't want to, I guess they could be in a classroom with the teacher while because the teachers come to work and they teach from here. So they're not at home too, So they're here at work, and they're in their office, and they're teaching their program. So I would imagine, if we had enough students that didn't care for it, that we could perhaps create a class especially for them. But I really feel like that is not the student that we service right now. And I feel like mostly we don't have anybody that wants to do that.
But I'm wondering too, Luz, if we should leave it as an option.
Absolutely.
I think we should have it where the schools, because I would hate to see it go that direction where it's all online theory.
No, I agree, 100%. I think it should be left up to the school. I think it should be optional for the school. If the school doesn't want to do it, that's up to them, you know? It's just another, when I used to teach, I used to say that there was a scissor, there was a razor, and a clipper. Each does the same thing, but at the end of the day, they all cut hair, right? But you can choose whatever tool you want. And here it is the same thing. There's online education, there's on-campus education. And if you want to use a hybrid situation, this is the curriculum that we
Okay.
recommend. This is the percentage we recommend. And if you don't, and you want to do it like you've been doing it, that's great too. I don't think that we should shoot ourselves in the foot like that at all.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Leah, for bringing that up.
Yeah, thank you.
No,
I
that's
didn't
good.
think about that. That was another one which right. Because I like the in-class and online because everybody can't learn the same online. But you, like Lou said, she know her student. And at this particular time, especially, but when the pandemic is, on the downside, I'm sure there's going to be some students that want to do theory in person. Would they have the opportunity to do that?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay, so any other questions for any of the committee members? Any other questions, concerns? And can you also find that out for us, Leah, too? While you guys are researching, you and Maggie, thanks, about the schools that have hybrid education, do they have in-class theory as well?
Sure, yeah, no problem.
Because that's important.
Well, I think that there's two kinds of theory. I think that there's, your chapters on sanitation and biology and, chemistry. I think that there's that kind of theory, right?
Mhm.
And then there's a theory about how to perform a facial and the protocols for a facial. So when we talk about, is there still theory going to be taught? Theory gets taught all day long, really, at the end of the day. So I think that there's two kinds of theory. When I talk about theory being online, I'm talking about that book work. That's my idea of what it should be. I'm not talking about the practical part of the theory in the sense of other than going through the protocol, but not necessarily having that student do that protocol at home by herself.
I know, Luz, we trust you.
Okay, good.
Do you understand where we're kind of going with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know what you're doing. You're doing, because you have to have theory before the procedure.
Yes,
exactly. But not every institution is probably, doing it that way, or maybe have it set up that way once this is approved.
Right. I see.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Any other questions or concerns? And we need to set, when's our next meeting? Oh, let me go back. I'm just past the meeting, right? Okay, so where are we? We skipped the temporary and went to the permanent?
That's fine. Yeah, you can do that however you want it. I think you're on D4, which is the selection of upcoming meeting dates.
Okay.
Only dates that aren't free for you right now are, of course, next week, but the law review has December 7th already taken. I don't know if you guys want to aim for maybe December 14th, or if you like Thursdays, December 10th, or whatever works for you, whatever you guys want to vote on.
It's whatever is convenient. I mean, mornings work best for me. If you guys want to keep it on the Thursday?
A Thursday is good and morning works best for me. Is that okay with you, Luz?
Yeah, that's fine. December, you said the 3rd or the 10th?
The 10th or the 17th, I think, look pretty open, if that works for either or all of you guys.
I'm good with either.
What about you, Talia?
I'm wherever you need me to be, whenever.
Okay. Okay, so you guys want to say the 10th?
Perfect.
The 17th is close to Christmas.
Yeah, let's do the 10th. That's good.
At 9 a.m.
Sure.
Yes,
Okay, cool. If you could just vote on that, I will make a note.
I would like to get a motion, please.
This is Taylor McCormick. I'd like to make a motion to have our next meeting on December 10th at 9 a.m.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Lou seconds that. Give it to Liz. Go
All
ahead.
in favor?
Click on that
Aye.
button.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any comments from the general public? Comments should be limited to 3 minutes or less.
I just had a comment, if I may, Madam President.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for letting me join. Thank you, Kai, for your comments. I appreciate you. You had me blushing over here. I think we're all looking forward to getting that hybrid program on the books because students are loving it, instructors are loving it, and all we're seeing is success from it. So thank you all for taking the time to get this nailed down for us.
We're working it out. Okay, so any comments from the hybrid education subcommittee? I think this was a really good meeting. I think it was good. I mean, we have there's some good questions and some good concerns, but at the end of the day, I think we're moving forward in a good positive direction. That's all I have. Any other comment? Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
This is Kai Stanton. I would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting from November 5th, 2020 of the hybrid committee meeting.
Can I get a second?
Taylor McCormick, I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks.